And Dan Sullivan makes a distinction between two types of freedom: freedom from and freedom to. And I think the distinction between fear and confidence is very much involved in this distinction between the freedom from and the freedom to. There's a big distinction, to my mind, between a choice and a decision. It's Connor here in my home in Barcelona, and this is a video sharing some thoughts about fear and confidence. And to begin with, there's an idea that comes from Dan Sullivan. And Dan Sullivan makes a distinction between two types of freedom: freedom from and freedom to. And I think the distinction between fear and confidence is very much involved in this distinction between the freedom from and the freedom to. And the distinction, let me talk about what freedom from means. Freedom from, when I ask someone who's working in a business, what's your dream for yourself? And they say, to be retired, to live away, not have to come to work. What they're talking about is freedom from. Their vision for their future, their dream for their future is not a dream made up of pieces. It's a dream made up of the removal of pain. And that's freedom from. If I remove all these pain, then there'll be something. But that's not how life works. Freedom to, a person who lives in the idea of freedom to, they're not trying to get rid of the problems of today. They're trying to achieve something that has greater, deeper meaning for them. And for me, it's very easy to fall into the freedom from. It's very easy to fall into the day-to-day, spotting the little problems, little pains, and just wishing all my little problems and pains would go away. It's much harder to stop and reflect and think about, well, what do I want my life to be? Who are the people that I want around me in my life? What are the places that I like to spend my life? What are the activities that I really love doing? And not to get something or to get someplace, but I love doing because of the intrinsic value of the activity for me. And defining this dream, defining what it really is, not in absence of problems, but what is the presence of activities, people, and a way of being that for you really would be freedom. And when your life is lived out of freedom from, it's a life that's connected to the fear. When you live a life that's directed towards the freedom to achieve the things, freedom to be with the people you want, freedom to be the person that you would love for others to see you being. When you begin to move out of there, you leave behind fear and move towards confidence. The second, and this I guess is getting a bit philosophical here, there's a big distinction, to my mind, between a choice and a decision. And this idea, for me, comes out of an exercise that is part of Landmark Forum. And Landmark Forum for many years has been an experience that really wakes people up to the way they're living their life. One of the exercises in Landmark is about choice and the distinction between a choice and a decision. And the exercise goes somewhat like, I would ask you to make a choice. So imagine I've got two ice creams, chocolate ice cream, vanilla ice cream, and I hold them out and I say, choose. And you make a choice. You say, I choose chocolate. I would say, why? You say, because I prefer chocolate. I would say, that's a decision. I asked you to choose. Chocolate or vanilla? Choose. And you say, strawberry. Why? Well, because clearly chocolate and vanilla are the wrong answer, so I just chose something else. That's a justification. That's a decision. Chocolate or vanilla? Choose. And eventually someone says, I choose chocolate because I choose chocolate. Now that's a choice. A choice comes from inside you. A decision is based on your desire, your justification, your reasons, what other people would expect you to do. When you make a decision, you're not putting yourself committed to the outcome of that decision. It's a justified path. When you make a choice, this is a scary moment because that's you who has put yourself there. Now, in the case of chocolate or vanilla ice cream, that's not a particularly big deal because they're both melted in about 15 minutes and it'll be over. But in the case of the big choices or decisions that we take in life, the choice of who to marry, the choice of the work that you're going to do as your life's work, the choice of who you spend your time with, very often, if you take this as a decision, I'll choose this job because A, because B, because C, because others said it was good, because I have this, your future is entirely based upon your past. But anything that is fundamentally a decision causes you to need to seek validation from the world for your decision. And when I take a decision, it's not me, the core of me, committing to a path. It's the reasons, it's my ideas, it's my desires that are moving me towards something. I will spend a lot of my attention looking for validation that I was right. And that's what sucks you into a life about fear. Because when you need to validate your decisions, you live a life where there's a fear of making wrong decisions. Now, not everything in life needs to be a choice, but the more that you can learn the distinction between what it is to choose, to take total, complete responsibility that you chose this, versus a decision where the justification is, well, I took the right decision, my reasons were good, it always leaves a small door open to let it fail. When you take a decision, there's always room to justify that, well, it wasn't lucky. When you make a choice, you don't get to let luck prove you wrong. You commit. I remember many years ago, I met at a conference I was speaking at, I met a very senior leader in the marketing world. And I gave the keynote speech at the event, the annual event of this group. And after my speech in the coffee, I had the privilege of speaking to the chairman of the association. And I asked him, he was 65 and I was 40 something at that time. I asked him, 20 years ago, where were you? What was happening? Were there any big thoughts or decisions that were on your plate 20 years ago? And I remember he thought for some time and he said to me, well, yes, 20 years ago, I remember I was working in Holland and I had a choice. I could go to London for this incredible job at Time Life magazine, or I could go to South Africa and open the offices of Ogilvy and Mather. And he said, on every aspect, London was the better option. It was more money, it was more prestige, it was the right thing for the next step in his career. He would look good in the eyes of all of his Harvard Business School classmates. That would be the job that people would go, wow, he's made it. But even knowing this, he was stuck and he couldn't take the decision. And finally, he called his mum. And he didn't expect his mum to be able to help, but she said, she heard his pain, his stuckness, and she said, do you know what you should do? Take the two options, put all of your criteria, do the sums and add up which are strong and which are weak. And when you get down to the bottom, if you feel like you want to go back and make some changes, you have your decision. And he went to South Africa. It lost on every one of his criteria, but when he looked at it, he wanted to go back and make changes. He went to South Africa, and that really transformed his career. And it transformed it because it was a choice. It went against all of what society would expect. It went against all the prestige elements, but it meant that he chose and he committed. So going there meant he had to make it work. And sometimes in life, we need to take choices where we close off all the plan B, plan C, all the doors out, and commit that our life, we take responsibility to make this work. I remember at ESA Business School several years ago, the founder of Tata, the Indian conglomerate, was up on stage sharing his worldview perspective with a large group of students and alumni. And someone put a hand up and asked the question, "Sir, how do you take good decisions? And I remember he kind of laughed at the question. He said, actually, I take very little time to think about good decisions. I take decent decisions, but then I spend a lot of effort and a lot of work making our decisions become good decisions. And I think this is that idea that rather than taking too much time to decide, you choose and then take the time and the effort to make it the right choice. But not make it based on justifications or validations by the world, but by the quality of the work that you put in, by the quality of the effort that you put in. And in order to move from a life where you live in fear to a life that's lived out of confidence, these transformations need to happen. One, move away from thinking about what you want freedom from and start to consider about what you want freedom to do. What would the freedom give you the capacity to do? Who will you spend time with? What activities would you do? What does your life look like? Not what pains do you want to remove from your life? And the second is that distinction between choice and decision. A choice is where your inner self knows that it has taken the decision. It's you. It's you who have placed yourself and committed to making this work. A decision just leaves me a little bit safe. That if it doesn't work out, it wasn't me, the core of me, that has failed. It was the decision. It was the validation. It was something outside of me. And it can be scary to make a choice, to put yourself truly responsible for your life. But unless you do, you will always have this fear lingering in the background. And I don't know which of the psychologists said that anxiety is unprocessed fear. And that fear is a normal part of humanity, but unprocessed fear, when you push it down, you don't deal with it, you don't accept it, you don't listen to it, you don't allow it to be part of you. And to be fearful is part of being human being. You and I would not be alive today had our ancestors and our genes not a set of fears that keep us safe. We should be thankful for the fear that holds us back from damaging ourselves at times. But we should also be aware that fear is in us not to live an excellent life. Fear is in us to live a life of pure survival. So these two changes, moving from thinking about what you want freedom from towards what you would like freedom to do. And the second, being aware of what the distinction between a choice and a decision is, and looking at where in your life you're playing half the game. You're not fully in. You've not put all your cards on the table. You've maintained a little 1% door open so that if it doesn't quite work out, you can move away without feeling that it touches on the core of you. The moment you choose and you commit, I think it was Goethe said, the universe conspires to help those when it sees a clear step of commitment. I think I've bastardized that quote, but commitment changes the world. Commitment changes the world from one where you live in fear to one that you live responsible and exuding confidence. And I know over these last 6 months for me, many times I've fallen into fear and anxiety and worry and becoming small and thinking about what I've lost and how it's affecting me. And it's taken some time over the last month or two to put away the fears and this playing small and thinking about me and speak to others and engage with others, to move into a world of choosing to be a teacher, choosing to make this video, choosing to play the role of leader that I happen to have the privilege to have in my family, in the business school, in the different associations where I'm involved, and hopefully here in this community that makes up this YouTube channel. I'd love your comments below. I know there's a lot of philosophical thing in here, so I need your comments to help me clarify the bits of this where you need help to understand what I'm trying to get out of my head and out there into the world. Have a great one. And again, this is Connor Neal. I hope these videos really make a difference for you, help you just remember why you're here, what's important in your life. If they do, hit that subscribe button, share these videos. Would really love to see your questions and your comments. So thank you for being part of the channel and these interactions. Have a good one.